This is your laptop.
Okay.
That's that.
So you haven't looked at any backup?
Yeah.
So
Not
you
yet?
just
Seriously?
that
Well, no,
one
I
spot
have it
there.
in paper form. No, the backup, no, I haven't looked at yet.
All right. Well,
I can't remember how to get on.
and Sheila sent y'all's insurance stuff, so.
Okay.
I don't remember how to get on.
I'll go on. I can do it tomorrow.
Is it just,
That's
That's
it.
it.
Just
same
Yep.
update
sign in?
that.
Yep.
But
Same
I just go
password.
sign in.
Yeah.
Thank
Now,
you.
Okay.
let's
None of
see.
that's changed.
Are we supposed to put our username is like Chris Gurley?
Oh shoot.
Huh?
Didn't work for me. My password.
We can't even get in. Oh, you got a lavalier.
Hmm.
Oh, you're gonna be fancy.
It's not letting me log
Must be
in.
changed
Okay, so
before
it's
logging
not
on.
just me.
User's password must be changed before logging in
I
on the
don't need
first
to
time.
change my password. So it's not letting me log in.
You know what? It's not letting me log in
I'm
either.
wondering because of
Here you go.
Google validation.
You don't need to
Now
have
that
that in.
it says the user's password must be changed before logging in.
Yeah.
Has it
Yeah.
changed from what we used to log in?
It's you have to update your new to a new
No.
Oh, you
password.
might have to tell me what to do too if I get on.
Well, then ask me about that.
You
How
can
would
get
I?
into the, just go
Leave
into the
it as
meeting
it
right
was
now.
and
Go into
just
the meeting
stay
room.
as it was. I don't change mine every 30 days. It is what it is.
Hey Janice, does he change it when they switch to Google?
I changed mine 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he said I wouldn't have to change it
Okay,
again, and it's not
you're
working.
right.
So now it's.
Oh, go ahead and take
And
those
you
out.
know what? I
Put
just
those.
logged in at home. No problem. So I've been going through the agenda
So
today.
just go to,
Fine. So
yep.
this is a problem with you guys. Okay, let me get in.
Mine's saying the user's password must be changed before logging on.
Probably up at the top
The
maybe.
old way?
So what does the old way mean? Because that's, I did the same thing
It's
that we
Uh,
always do.
they're called forward.
yeah, yours
Yeah.
is right. Yours just needs a password
Oh.
change.
Well,
So
that's an actor. Come over here and edit.
He told me I wouldn't have to change it again.
Deselect that. And then save.
I'm waiting for the user profile.
There's two of them.
That's a
Is
better,
it saying that to you?
well, that's a better
Mhm.
sign than what I had before, so maybe I remembered the right password.
And I went ahead and changed it. Password.
And now if you're going to do the attendance,
I
I shouldn't
know,
do
and
that.
that's crazy. And I don't have to
Hi.
keep changing it, just, I'll take it.
Diane's office is
This is
dark
all
and
public.
she's
I like
got
your
the
meeting room.
lights. Our
Big
door
deal.
is still open.
Yes.
I got in.
Closed it.
Come in, Jordan.
Probably because they were there at the point in time that we,
I'm
that we
sorry.
created the yeah. agenda.
Carol, did you get in?
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
So
User's
we'll
password
test
must
that
be changed
after.
before logging on the first time.
So what if I change it to what it already has? Will it let me do that?
They had to give me, I was,
See, that's such a pain in the neck.
Jeremy, I got in.
You told me I wouldn't have to change it.
So the user password, we got pegged on an audit,
Yep.
and so to fulfill the audit, we reset the
They
password.
have to
You logged
And
in
how long ago was the
yesterday,
audit?
and it won't log in now.
How long ago did we get pegged on it for an audit?
This
Just last
morning?
month? Really?
No, this
This
morning.
morning?
So
I knew that last month I
I'd
had to
rather
get
it
in.
not make its way up here and just take care of it.
No,
You
I got
logged
in.
in yesterday, and it won't let you log in now.
Oh, it's in at
Yep,
home.
Myrna.
2 hours
It's
ago.
I
Myrna.
knew they had
It
to.
that's because it was reset at 4 o'clock. It was about 250 accounts that were set to, some of them were never set.
Oh, that's why they were set to never So expire. Jeremy, That's what yours was
And
on.
I'll put in whatever you want.
Mine wasn't.
You can even put a cent in, and if not, I'll go reset it for
Password
you.
I
they
am
gave
seeing
me
the
last
same thing.
night
It's
is
not
still
taking
good.
it.
Okay.
What's
They
that?
reset their password the same thing. If they want it same, I don't care, but
Awesome.
we fulfilled
I
the.
don't care. It's all public record. Anybody who wants to read can read it, so it doesn't seem to be a huge deal.
Unable to update the
They're
password.
easier to get
Jordan,
in.
Gordon's gonna reset
It's
yours
not
with this
about
one.
you. It's about they can get into our system.
When does the meeting start?
Yours because we just reset
That's
yours
correct.
yesterday.
Right.
You get to reset. I'm not disputing it. That's fine. It's fine. I understand your frustration. I am very frustrated.
Because we
And
set
we're
it
only just
yesterday.
beginning.
It's telling you because you set that password within 90 days.
No,
No.
theirs were set, she had had hers set
So
to
just sit
never
here and wait.
expire.
I mean,
We're gonna do it right now. We're gonna let you type it in until you can set it to whatever you want.
So Janice, the last big audit, exit audit that
fine, so.
But they automatically will change, like mine expired on me, expires in between board meetings.
I can talk about the audit trail and stuff.
Expires on me, so I was on the phone with you guys last night, and then you
No,
said
it's a board meeting.
That's why I was asking, did it change again?
I understand BK.
So maybe because yours was reset last night, yours might still be good. I'm gonna try it.
Hers will not be good.
Mine won't, it was reset last night.
So what should I do?
We're resetting it for you right now. And at the bottom of my email, which you're the only board member that actually introduced you, at the bottom of my email will be my cell phone number. As some of them will tell you, I will answer my phone between 9 and 2 o'clock.
Thank you, Jeremy. Nice to meet you.
Sure.
So go ahead and try and log in now.
Don't pull away, please.
All right, you're good now, Mr. It will work.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, I wanna wait till we can all live on the same place. We don't get all the bluster on our
Right.
neck and.
Please wait for user profile.
Mine says please wait for user profile.
Yours probably was not set to never expire. Only if your password was set to never
okay.
expire did you get hit with this. It was 200, like I said, about 250 accounts in the
Alright, I'm
district.
good, I'm in.
That was me, I was one of them.
I'm gonna.
Well, everyone in the technology department, we had about 20 in the technology department, and they complained vehemently, and the answer was, mine's set to expire too. There's no reason you can't reset your password.
Thank you. Thank you.
So no one in the district has that left.
So does that mean it resets?
No, I think it's
It says it's not correct, it didn't work.
It's 90 days.
Am I gonna need to change my password every so often?
About 90 days.
Really?
Once a quarter is what the.
Oh, good Lord, I will never remember it. I mean,
What I do is I change something, like I change the end to the, just to like a J for July or whatever.
And that is a very common thing. And I would suggest putting everyone with the handle keep the same exact password.
Good idea. So then it's the same as what you've done, and it has never come up with code. And it's just
okay,
going
now,
12 months.
And I'll share the same thing I just,
Yeah, I know, it's the only time it's
just like you normally do,
well,
shortcut.
that's not 5 months normally when you change.
We reset all that for you.
Or does it remember it longer than 5 months?
now, do I still just put
It's
C stutter?
C stuttered, and the password you just.
Okay.
So don't have to
I
do that
actually was
one
on
in
Agenda
place.
Plus last
No,
night,
no.
3 or 4 or 5 hours after I finally logged out. Doesn't seem very difficult. Alright.
Still say something about consent.
It's a short cut. It says it's probably about 4 down on the left side. Yep. And when you go to log in, like Carol's, for example, when you work on it, it's C stuttered is hers. So it's not your email address, it's your login.
I'm in.
So it's like EA Common?
I've done it at home, it seems so easy with Word, opening up the backup and all of that.
Well, I'll be very honest with you. You'll meet Mark in a minute. Before we get done,
Okay.
I'm not going to dodge this question. When you got someone to blame, point the finger at me. I'm the one who vetted and went through all these programs, and this is going to end up saving us money over time. And I'm going to comment to that about why we specifically chose this, but they're also available.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and call the, board workshop to order. Today is July 20th, 2016.
Okay.
Since I have the agenda up.
How do you get the agenda?
So,
Click on meeting agendas to the left,
uh-huh.
and then you'll see 3 or 4 things pop up.
Okay.
You click on the one that says July 20th, where you go to the eyeball on the right.
Get the eyeball, okay.
And remember, we
I'm
are
here.
recording, so you need to use your mics.
Expand all, and it actually
Right.
opens up the agenda for you.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we've called the meeting to order. The one workshop item is the board member training on Agenda Plus software. So we're going to go ahead and get started with that.
All right, nice to meet you all. My name is Mark Vickers. I'm the product director for Agenda Plus.
Would you say your name again?
It's Mark Vickers, and I've been working with Karen and Jeremy for the last, I guess, couple of months, getting everything transitioned over, getting it set up, and getting it configured for Clay County. My job here today is very simple. My job is to make sure that tomorrow night you look fully competent and capable up there and that we don't have any issues. It's real simple. My job is to make sure you don't have any issues, because then none of us are going to look real good. Now, we need to go through a couple of steps. We need to walk through what happens before a meeting. I know some of you have had a chance to play with Agenda Plus. We need to go through some steps to make sure you're really clear on some logistical things in the agenda prior to the board meeting. Then we're going to walk through all the different combinations of things that can happen during the board meeting.
Okay.
Because the last thing that we want to see happen, because of the speed that a board meeting moves at, we don't want to have something come up and all of a sudden nobody knows what to do. Now, for as much as we've planned this, that may still happen. So the first thing I'm going to ask is tomorrow at the board meeting, please be patient with Karen and Denise, because something may come up that we haven't quite accounted for, or that we just missed, or that they forgot. We'll get through it. First of all, I want to talk a little bit about the structure of the system. When you look at it, there's going to be a lot of things that are very similar to what you would have seen in the old e-agenda system. But it's a new infrastructure, it's stable, it's on all the new technology, all that good stuff. And it has a tremendous number of new features, most of which impact Karen and Denise on the back end, on the administrative side, but some that play in on the board side. One of the things that is most critical in the system is the audit trail that is in there. As you know, everything you do is part of public record. So making sure the public record is solid is really, really important. We've spent a lot of time making sure that, based on what Jeremy and the team have asked for from a compliance perspective, that it's there. With this system, you can go into any item and you will know. Now, we've got a couple of minor glitches on the agenda for tomorrow, but starting with the August agenda, you will know who created the item, whether it was part of a base agenda and copied into the item. You will know every single time that item was edited, whether it was sent back for revision, information requests, everything will be there. Now, that level of audit trail goes through every aspect of the board process, up to and including the votes that are taken on the floor here in the board meeting. Each of you have the ability to place your vote electronically, and it is very, very important from a public record perspective that you place your own electronic vote. It's important for a couple of reasons. First of all, asking the board assistant to place your vote is kind of like saying, hey, can you sign my name that I said this? And in a board setting, even though we've got the audio recording, and I think you have video recording as well for the real board meetings, especially on the audio, it can be very difficult to distinguish voices because multiple people are talking and all that. And it opens up the possibility, and we've seen this in other districts where a board member says, oh, no, I didn't say yes, I said no. I said no, I said yes, and we end up with that whole mess. This is all about protecting you as board members if something goes sideways 6 months, 12 months, 18 months from now, that it was your vote, you voted it, you clicked on the button. We're going to go through the process of if something goes haywire and all of a sudden, Ms. Condon, if you say, oh, I clicked on the wrong button, can I change my vote? If that happens, then it's a cancel of the vote and it's a restart of the vote. And we will go through that process, so you'll see exactly what those screens look like. And again, that is all part of the process of making sure that the public record is as clean as it can possibly be. As we go through before I do that, a little bit about us. We are local, as Jeremy said. It's part of the reason that Clay chose us, which we're really happy about. We are, I think as the crow flies, our office is about 8 miles away. Driving, it's much longer than that because we're right over on San Jose, basically at Loretto Road. The guys behind Agenda Plus have intimate knowledge of the old e-agenda system. They were involved in the development of that system and subsequently have now created this one. So we're excited to be launching here at Clay County. We're very appreciative of the staff here because they've been awesome to work with. As we go through the training, if you have any questions, just stop me. We'll go through it. Yes?
I do have a question. What's the name of the company?
The name of the company is, I keep calling it Agenda Plus, but the actual name of the company is Agile Tech.
Agile Tech. Okay.
Agile Tech is the name of the company. The product is Agenda Plus.
Okay.
I'm so used to calling us Agenda Plus that I
Right.
forget our own company name sometimes.
Gotcha.
But please, any questions, just go ahead and stop me. I'm going to stand over Karen's shoulder so that I can see her screen. Now, when you first log in, on the left-hand side, you see a thing that says Dashboard. I know some of you are going to agendas. If you could please click on the dashboard for me. When you click on the dashboard, that gives you just a real quick look into the upcoming agendas, how many items are on them. And as Karen and Denise and the team are putting the next agenda together, you can actually watch as it progresses. And when you start watching this next month, you'll see, okay, there's X number of items waiting approval, X number of items saved. It doesn't tell you what they are, but you can just kind of at least see what the progress is. And as we get down to that 7 days in advance, all of a sudden everything starts approving real quick and we end up all the way down. As items are being put into the system, we do have in place a 1 or 2-step approval path on every single item that is entered into the agenda. That means someone in the individual departments is an item author. They enter that item. Based on the category on the agenda that that item falls into, it's going to pick up an approval path. And it will go to 1 or 2 people for approval. Again, those approvals are tracked in the audit path. So if something's on the agenda and you have a question, you're going to know exactly who has looked at that item. And again, everyone has been told no going in and approving stuff for other people because that's like forging a signature. So the approvers have said, don't ask the item author to log in as you, click on a button. That's not going to fly because it is your name on that item. So again, we've been very clear throughout the district on that. So the dashboard just gives you some real quick information. If you go ahead and click on Manage Agendas, or sorry, Meeting Agendas. So Karen, go ahead and click on Meeting Agendas for me and we'll follow along here. One of the key things with all the screens in Agenda Plus is you've got filter boxes, and you're probably used to these from other software, where you can choose things like which templates, which boards, and what status. Right now, we are only running one board within the district. We may find situations where we need to create sub-boards, which from a system perspective would be considered a board. The key thing is the status. So you can look at active or basically released and completed statuses. Right now, you don't have many agendas showing up there. So let's go ahead and click on the agenda for tomorrow's regular meeting. And if you click on the View button, that will show you all of the items. Key things on this screen, as well as on the view of the agenda you get in the meeting, is right near the top there's an Expand All and Collapse All. As you know, your meeting agendas can get very lengthy. So you can click on the Collapse All, it will shrink it down just to the main categories. You can manually expand it, or you can simply expand all and scroll up and down through it, whichever way you prefer. The benefit of looking at the agenda on eAgenda as opposed to the website is you have that ability. As you know, on the website, you see the whole long thing with all the attachments and all the other junk that's in there. It's a very, very long agenda. If you can get logged into eAgenda, it's going to be just a lot easier to look at it here than it is on the website. Now, on each of the items, there's a series of icons, and I want to go through those icons and make sure we're all comfortable with exactly what they are. The eyeball, the all-knowing eyeball, that is simply the view of the item. Go ahead and on the first item, which is under the consent agenda, the minutes of the student hearings and regular meetings. If you can find that item and click on the eyeball, please.
Wait a minute.
Has everyone got that item?
No.
It's under superintendent, so click on the superintendent folder, Carol, and then it will expand it.
Did you expand all?
Under superintendent's comment?
Under consent agenda, click on the first folder, which is superintendent.
Oh, expand. Okay. Oh, okay. All right.
And
gotcha.
click on the eyeball.
Yep.
Click on the eyeball for that first item. So again, when we click on the eyeball, this is where we see the status and the details for that item. So at the top, you see all of the information that the item author would have entered in, the title, the category, the subcategory, the description of the item, the recommendation, the financial impact, all that good stuff. Then you have the attachments. So depending on where you are on your screen, you might need to position just a little bit for the attachments. On the very left-hand side of the attachment, you see the little download thing. You click on that, you're going to be able to view the attachment. Mm-hmm. You will notice on the right-hand side is a flag for confidential. If the item is confidential, you'll be able to see it, but anybody in the district that is not flagged as having access to confidential material would not be able to see that. Below the attachments are the audit history. Yes, ma'am.
Where is the flag that you're talking about?
Right over here where it says confidential. So,
it's okay.
I'm sorry, I said flag.
Sorry.
It's not really a flag. It's a
Right.
yes/no. So,
Okay.
my apologies.
I didn't even see that.
Yep.
Sorry.
So that's where you can. So on that particular item, you can see that the first item is not flagged as confidential. The second is. Again, for Each of you, that's not really that much of an issue because you get to see all of that stuff. In the detail of the item, you can see the audit history. So if we go right to the very bottom of the audit history, you'll notice that it says, item copied from the agenda, base regular agenda. One of the things that we've set up to make the administrative process easier is we've created a base agenda that has all the regular occurring items. In the past, they had to go in and create those every single month. They were copying and pasting stuff from Word. We're talking hours of work in the district. Every month, copying and pasting junk, did I say junk?
Yes.
Items
I
that
knew
needed
you
to be
were such a
repeated
hard
over
worker.
and over again. Okay? So what you're going to see moving forward at the very bottom of that item history, when it says item copied from base agenda do not use, those are those recurring items that every time Karen creates a new agenda, it's just going to copy over that core structure. Then the individual authors will go in, adjust, and modify those for the current meeting.
Okay.
Beyond that, you will see...
Question.
Yes?
Regarding that, because it is a copy over from, is it like a template, so it's blank, or does it copy over information from the previous agenda?
It does not copy from the previous agenda. Okay. So the best way to think of this is the thing that's called base regular agenda do not use. That is an agenda that has the core structure of the items.
Okay.
It's up to each item author how much detail they put in. Some put in more than others, but it's a placeholder, and if there's stuff that is always the same, then it's there.
Okay.
If there's stuff that's different, the different stuff isn't supposed to be there.
Okay.
And we may have a little bit of cleanup to do on that. And there shouldn't be any attachments in it, because
Sure.
the attachments obviously would change every month.
Okay.
The types of things that you're typically going to see in the audit history are edits. This person edited it over and over and over again. You will see it going to an approver, and the approver either rejecting it, or requesting a revision, or requesting extra information. You will see typically a couple of different layers of approval. In the event that you see something that says, item has been reset for approvals, that will happen in a situation where an item has been entered, submitted for approval, it's gotten partway or all the way through the approval path, and then someone has said, whoops, we got a problem. We have to change this item. Once that item has gone through the approval path, as soon as it is re-edited, it resets the entire approval path, and it has to be done again.
Okay.
Because you can't edit an item and say it's already been approved.
Right.
So you're going to see those kind of things. So it's going to give you some visibility into what's actually happening in the background that, from what I understand, you haven't had before. And from a public record perspective, this never shows up in the published minutes. But if, heaven forbid, the lawyers ever call and say, tell us everything and all the history about this, then we would have to release that. But we don't show it publicly, but it's there. At the very bottom left, right-hand corner, you've got the close button, which allows you to close out of that information screen. Now, when you are looking at an agenda, and this is the other reason that you're going to want to preview your agendas in Agenda Plus as opposed to on the standard county website. The second little icon, it kind of looks like a pad of paper there. That's your annotation button. Go ahead and click on annotation. And I'd like you each to put in just a sample annotation there, and it can just be your name. It can be whatever the heck you want. This lets you put in your notes of these items prior to the meeting. So when you're looking at the agenda in the week leading up to the board meeting, you can put in your notes. Now, after you save your note, you'll notice that that annotation icon turns green. That way you can quickly tell by looking at the screen that you do have an annotation. When you get to the board meeting, that annotation will still be there, so if you had something that you wanted to discuss or ask about that item, you can leave yourself your own little notes. You can see your own little notes. No other board member can see it. About the only people that could see it if we dug hard enough would be Jeremy and I. Well, actually, I take me out of that because I couldn't. Jeremy could probably find it in the database. Okay? It is not published in the minutes or in the agenda or the minutes. Karen and Denise don't see it in any of their stuff. It is truly your notes.
Actually, Dharma and Mystique are the only ones.
Oh, they don't even let you see it?
Very specifically, so no school board employee has access to certain.
Okay, thank you, Jeremy. So I'll finish. So Dharma, what Jeremy was just saying, because I don't think he got picked up on the recording, is that the only two people who can actually see that other than the person who entered it is Mustika and Dharma. Mustika is the CEO of our company, and Dharma is our head developer. And I did not know this, but Jeremy's instruction to them was, no one inside the district other than you should be able to see your annotations.
So I think it would be an important thing to note that if we're taking notes on a particular item and if it's a confidential item, you don't want to put anything confidential in there. If somebody outside the school district has the ability to see that, which he just said they do, that's just something to think about, whether you want to do that or not.
We have the proper data agreements in place with them that puts them on basically an NDA.
Non-disclosure agreement, okay.
Yeah. And again, since Jeremy was not Mike, we are, Agile Tech is under a full non-disclosure with the district.
Okay.
And what Jeremy just said is we are covered by all the data release requirement, whatever is, apparently we've been certified as okay.
Just point of clarification. Even though it can't be accessed, it's still considered a public record.
Right.
Correct.
It would be public record. So in the event of a lawsuit, anything that gets entered in, annotations, the audit history, everything that is in the system is part of the public record. It doesn't get released unless it would be probably by a court order, I'm assuming, would be the only way we would dig into that.
So we would have to go back to Agile Tech and have them pull that information.
Right. And that's based on what Jeremy has told us today. In the event that that happened, it would be a request that would come to us to pull all of the detail about that item.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I learned something today. Cool. All right. So we've got the eyeball, which is taking a look at it. We've got the annotations. Then we have the eye. And go ahead and click on the eye. That is a request more info.
Excuse me, could
Yes.
I ask a question
Yeah,
that
sure.
you may be getting to, but since you said annotations, this email annotations,
Mhm.
does that email them to us?
It
or
does.
Okay.
To you.
Okay.
We'll get to that one in just a second.
Okay, no problem.
So
Thank you.
right beside the annotation is the eye. That lets you request information.
Oh.
When you do a request of information, you get to choose from the
I first
drop-down.
clicked on the eyeball when you said I.
Oh, sorry. The letter I, not the eyeball. You can choose in the top part in the users, you've got a drop-down list of basically all the quote-unquote users of the system. Now that would be all of the authors, all of the approvers, the board assistants, and yourselves. So if you need to request more information, you can choose, because when you're requesting more information, you may be requesting information from the approver, you may be requesting it from the author. That's why we don't force it to go to a certain person. We let you choose who you're making the request of. I don't know what the situations might be, but it could be a request to Denise or Karen to say, hey, can you give me, refresh my memory, whatever it is. So this is a way right from that item to go ahead and do that.
Okay.
So you can go ahead and close out of that little screen. Again, the screens are all very, very simple. Again, we've touched on the expand all and collapse all. If you scroll up and down, you can see that whole agenda. Karen, have we flagged anything in this agenda? Okay, but nothing in the live one? No. Okay. So we'll look at that in the other agenda. So really, that's the core stuff here. It's just getting really, really comfortable with the screen. And it sounds like many of you have already been in there and kind of played around. It's just not that complicated. It gets a little bit more sophisticated when we get over into the board meeting. We'll take a look at that shortly. Now, there is that green button at the top of the screen, which is your email annotations. Go ahead and click on that. It's going to ask you for your email address. It is not going to assume that you want to use the email address that is on your profile, which is your district email. Now, that's probably where you're going to send it, but you get to choose where you want to send your annotations. Part of the reason we left this flexible is, and I can't see your name tags because they're facing the wrong way, but you may decide that you're creating some annotations and you want to send them to her. Well, you could do that. You could
No, we don't want to do that.
No.
I'm just saying, you could if you wanted to. Again, it's all about having the flexibility that when you put those annotations in, but keep in mind, the system is going to track. Thank you, Jeremy. Now I know who I'm talking to. Now it's all about you having the flexibility. You can send those annotations to where you need to. So again, it's...
What if you don't want to send them somewhere? Just don't do it.
Well, yeah, typically, and there's really not that much need for it because you're going to have access to the system while you're in the meeting anyway.
So for example, if I was on the minutes of the student hearings, whatever, I had created this little annotation in here. I had created an annotation. Karen Bush, I always knew you were such a hard worker. So, and then do I have to click update? Or
Yes.
What? Okay, so I would click I don't want to do it in this one. But anyway, when I click on this email annotations, is it going to pull up that annotation that I
It
created?
is going to just consolidate all of the annotations.
Gotcha, okay.
So it's going to be almost like a digest of annotations for this agenda.
Okay.
Okay, so if
gotcha.
you wanted to get a list of all your annotations,
Okay.
that would be where you would get.
That way you
get
could
that
just
from.
have a single copy of all your
I
notes.
did
Yeah.
a test and I didn't get it. I sent myself one.
It may take a few minutes to
Oh,
come
okay.
through because it's got to bounce through.
This is the live agenda. We don't want to do it in this one. We got a mock one coming up.
Well, no, it's just an email annotation.
Oh.
It shouldn't matter
Yeah.
what.
It'll-
I'm
it'll-
emailing myself something.
It'll bounce through the system somewhere
Right.
along the line.
Okay.
All right, so let's go ahead and close out of there.
Now, if we
Yes.
do this with the annotations, is it just going to list your annotations, or does it show which items you had an annotation on?
If I remember correctly, it shows you the title of the item and then the annotation.
Okay.
Yeah.
I could see that being very beneficial to have a list of that.
Y'all's screens are so different from mine.
Okay, that's fine. Have a seat right here if you want to.
All right, so let's go ahead and close out of here. And Karen, we're going to go into our mock agenda now. So let's go back into meeting agendas. And you'll notice on the mock training agenda, the icon is now not an eyeball. It's a red, kind of like bell thing that says, go to meeting room. When Karen takes the meeting into session, it changes that icon, and it totally changes how these screens work. In the event that you get in here and you get logged in, and for some reason Karen hasn't already taken it into session, you will be required to refresh your screen so that it picks up the new code based on the fact that the meeting's now in session. Typically, though, Karen's going to have it in session long before you walk into the room.
Can you repeat that one more time?
Sure. If you go, so let's say you got here early and you looked at the meeting agenda and it had the eyeball.
Right.
If you went into the eyeball, then Karen came in and put the meeting in session,
Refresh.
then you would need to do a refresh to pick up the fact that the meeting was now in session.
And you refresh by,
You can refresh on that one. You would need to refresh by clicking the little circular arrow thing right up near the top of the by the URL.
Gotcha. Okay, refresh.
So that just does a whole page URL, and that will do it.
Okay.
There are situations once we're into the meeting room where you might need to refresh, and we have a different way of doing it in that case. So let's go ahead and let's go into the meeting room.
Refresh, okay. Or F5. F5 or refresh.
There's
F5
my
is also
mark.
the manual refresh on a keyboard. Some people, I personally don't like to move my mouse around the home button and the back buttons because I get click happy. F5 will refresh it very quickly.
F5,
for you.
F5 as well will refresh. Now, when you come into an agenda and you are in the meeting room, the left part of the screen is pretty much the same as what you had before. The right-hand side of the screen, though, has some extra information. You'll see the boxes that say current agenda item, attachment, and actions. That little box on the right-hand side is always going to be visible regardless of how far you scroll down the screen. That's where the action happens in the meeting. That's the part of the screen that you're going to want to be paying very, very close attention to. Now, nobody touched their mouse. Karen, pick the first item on the agenda. Well, let's pass the invocation and that stuff. Let's go to the first real item, which is the
Mock item one.
the mock agenda item. Notice, as soon as Karen selected that first item, which Ms. McKinnon would be based on what you're directing as the board meeting is going on, Karen selects that item as the next active item, and all of your screens immediately refreshed that section to show you what the current agenda item is, and it shows you the attachments right there. So you don't have to click on the eyeball to look at the item to find the attachments. As soon as Karen picks that item as the next active item, your attachments show. So in the top part where it says current agenda item, you'll see the description, and you'll notice that in blue letters it says view. If you click on that view, it pulls up the same thing that you would see if you saw the eyeball. Typically, in a board meeting setting, all you're going to look at is that little sidebar on the screen. Don't even worry about the whole agenda on the left. Just focus on that box. That way you're not going to get lost and confused and in the wrong place. Again, this screen works it's the exact same screen we saw before. It has everything, including the attachments and the item history, everything else there. So you can scroll down to the bottom. It says close at the bottom. There's also an X at the top on the very top right-hand corner. So again, view is the exact same as clicking on the eyeball. Your attachments are there. Go ahead and click on the attachments. There's your attachments. And these are attachments that Karen copied out of the user guide that she has for Agenda Plus. So you can close out of there. Close out of your attachment, which just opened up in a new tab.
Uh-oh.
Did you want to see that? So it's right here.
Yeah, I was just looking to see.
Yeah, so it's
Where
right
would you
here.
wanna
You
go
click on
then?
that, opens in a new tab. Close
Now, on the item itself, you will notice that there is an additional icon that you didn't see when you were just doing the normal review, and it looks kind of like an hourglass. That hourglass is the approval path. Go ahead and click on that. Oh, and this item doesn't actually have one, because this is our mock agenda. So let me tell you what's normally going to show up here. This will normally say approved by, give me a name.
Here, I can do ours. It's going to go, Teresa Tubbs would enter it as the secretary in IS. It was an operational situation like a purchase of Focus. It would come to me. I would approve it. It would go to Carl Hendrick. Carl would approve it. You would see it.
Okay.
So what you would see is you would see Jeremy and Carl in here and the date and time they approved it.
And the approval process is only in place in the regular meeting agendas. So for any special meetings or workshops, we don't have that set up.
Right.
Isn't that available also just on the item?
Yes, yes, it is.
So it's the same thing that you see down here?
So
It's the same thing, yes.
Okay.
It's,
yeah, if you open it up, it's right here.
right. All the hourglass does, it just gives you, instead of giving you all of the audit history, it gives you just the approval path.
approvers, okay.
So just the approver. But again, you're absolutely right. If you look at the audit history, it's nothing different than what's there. Yeah, you're right.
Mark, I have a question.
Yes, Jeremy.
Based upon what you've shown and what we're seeing, so this the sidebar, let's say Carol has made an annotation in the pre-notes. Does her annotation also show up in this sidebar? Because if it doesn't, we need to probably...
The annotation doesn't, but what you can always do is you'll have it right beside the item in the green.
So I would go back to here and...
It would be right here. So there's your annotation box. So right beside your item is the annotation box, and you would see it there.
There it is, right there.
your annotation?
And
Best practice would
No,
be
this
to
is my
just
annotation right
expand
here.
all,
Yeah.
or we'll look into
That's
adding
just
that.
the item.
Okay.
can you make me a note?
I got it.
Okay, because I won't remember that. But I like that idea of adding it into the box, the side box.
What, adding the annotation?
Yeah, I like, like somewhere around where the attachments are, I like the idea of adding the annotations there if you put annotations in.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea, so we'll make that change as well.
Okay.
All right, so on this item, in the action section, you can see that there's no action. So we've got the current agenda item, we've got the details, the attachments, no action items. When we have an item that does have actions, things are going to get very different very, very quick. Let's do an expand all on this agenda, and we're going to go through a number of different things just to make sure. So the first one we were doing, we just did the hover on the icon, so we're good there. The second one is review the item detail. We did that. Practice doing attachments. Oh, heck, we're way ahead of things already.
Requesting additional information for this.
Requesting additional information. Well,
We talked about that,
We
yeah.
already talked about that. I think we're ready to start playing with some voting.
Yeah.
So, under the adoption of the consent agenda. So again, Karen, go ahead and select the item for adoption of the consent agenda. And when Karen does that, you'll notice your screen has changed. The current agenda item is now adoption of the consent agenda. There is an attachment. Do we normally have an attachment on that one, Karen, or you just put one there for fun? Okay. Right now, you'll notice it says motion to approve, and there is a thing there that says view. Go ahead and click on view. What that shows is the actual action that is about to occur. What Karen's going to do is she's going to preset the actions on items that she knows are going to have an action. So approving the consent agenda, there's always going to be a vote on approving the consent agenda. She has that set up, but what she hasn't put in is who made the motion and who seconded, thank you, the motion. So if we can have someone make the motion and second the motion, Karen can do her thing.
Move approval.
What's that?
Move approval.
Okay.
I need a second.
I'll second.
We have a motion for approval by Ms. Studdard and a second by Ms. Condon.
Okay. Now, if you close out of the little screen you're in right now and go back into view, you should now see That information has been updated.
Ah,
All right. I like it when a plan comes together. Now, at this point, Karen has not opened up the vote. So again, this is where tomorrow you might need to have just a little bit of patience because Karen's got to put those two things in and click in different places. So close out of this screen. Karen, go ahead and initiate the vote,
says voting
which
now.
she did before you even got out of there.
Votes.
Now it says voting now, so you click on vote. And when you click vote, you can see yourself, and you can also see the tally
Now, we have
up
a vote
to this
aye
point.
or nay? Yeah.
It doesn't matter, it's a mock.
Okay? So click on vote.
But I mean, if I wanted, if we were doing a real vote, would it have an,
No, click. There you go.
oh, now we do aye or nay, okay.
Now you see
You
you've
see
placed your
everybody
vote.
Yeah.
And at the bottom of that screen, you can see the running total, and it very quickly went to approved.
Right.
So what you can see is now if you go back into, if you click on vote again,
You can see all the votes.
it's going to show what you voted, and it's going to show the counts.
Two people not present.
The two people not present are our test board members that we've been testing. They're being terminated this evening after this meeting.
Remove them.
Yeah, those two, Karen and I have placed a lot of votes with those two people over the last couple of weeks. And those are there because we didn't want to have any testing done with any of your names, which is why we had all sorts of test names in. So again, the vote process is very, very quick. Karen on her screen, as the votes are coming in, she knows who's voted and she knows what the vote was, A or nay. If someone hasn't voted, Karen knows who that is. Yes.
Will it show on the votes which one of us descended if
Yeah.
it were a 4-1? Would it say?
It will not show on yours.
It does not.
It does not show on yours. Karen sees who,
I see it. Voting status finished. It says 5 said aye.
But
0
no name.
I
But
meant
no
you to
name.
show the
Oh,
name.
okay, I'm
You know how
sorry, yeah.
you'll repeat
Yes.
and you'll say descending Mrs. Carrick is Mrs. Studdard.
Okay, yeah.
so Karen sees that.
Sorry.
Why would you say that?
She said she was negative today.
So what we're going to do is we're going to do another vote, and this time,
Just hypothetically.
Ms. McKinnon, if you can not vote, I want you to not vote
Okay.
initially, just so that we can see the actual process.
Okay.
So Karen, take us to another item. Oh, okay, so we need on something in the discussion agenda. So let's do the next one in the discussion agenda. Take us to D1, Karen. So on item D1, this is a discussion item. Real time in a meeting, Karen may or may not know if there's going to be an action on this item. So let's give Karen an action on this item.
You want a motion?
Yes, please.
Oh, move approval. Let's do it again.
I'll second.
I have a motion for approval by Ms. Studdard and a second by Ms. Condon.
So it's going to take Karen just a minute to create that action. And what Karen will do is she's going to create the action and immediately put it into vote. So as you watch, your screen's going to update momentarily here.
Carol Studdard made the
same
motion.
two.
Same two. And Ms. Condon made the second.
Karen's not feeling any stress at this point whatsoever.
No kidding.
I'm impressed with how smooth this seems like it's going to run. I don't think we're going to have any problems. It seems very easy.
I see one stumbling block in this whole process, and it was the same stumbling block that I brought to Mark, and it's the speed of the meeting at the vote.
Oh, so we just slow it down a bit.
Without taking
Right.
an active vote is a bad thing.
Okay.
because Karen cannot correct that record. This is your record.
So we'll just have to
We
slow
just
things
slow it
down
a
and
bit and wait.
yeah, we can do that.
Count to
It'll
10.
It'll get faster.
Yeah.
It'll be better
And the-
than
and as-
Okay, we're ready to vote.
which is
Oh,
what's been-
okay, so yeah, you're not going to
I'm
vote.
not gonna
So
vote.
if everyone else could go ahead and vote on this item.
Public view, Mark.
What's that?
We need to talk about a public view. I just had an idea because I want a screen
Okay.
that will show public
Mhm.
view of voting.
All right, so we've got some votes. You can see, and just,
Is it
Ms. Gelhazen?
updated now? Click on the updated.
Didn't want to
See, while voting, I can see that
Yeah.
Janice voted, how she voted.
and I'm seeing that too.
But I can't scroll down.
I'm seeing that too. I did not, I had not seen that. And I think I think that is a flag that needs to be turned off. I'm going to check that here
We're looking
momentarily.
Where do you see that?
Look, Jeremy, you see it?
Look at my
Right
screen.
here.
Yeah, you don't yet?
I can see how everybody
okay.
voted.
See,
I
it won't-
want to
it
take a
won't
look at a
stay
setting
where
real
I can
quick.
look at
It
it.
doesn't stay there, though. Yeah. Why is
Before
that?
we, Mark, before we turn it off, may I ask the board members,
I just want to see if it is, even is an option.
would you want it to stay? Because it's public record anyways.
It doesn't matter because we all know
We
how
know.
we're
Yeah.
voting
Yeah.
and it is.
Why
public
isn't it
record, so
staying?
It's not worth doing any work on.
Then let's get over it, so it does, let's
Yeah.
turn it off so it doesn't slow the meeting down, catching someone's eye.
That's just the tally.
What, the board member voting at the bottom of it?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying, turn it off?
No, turn off just this part that you, could you see it anyway? Right here. This
Yeah,
part.
I can see it.
Turn that part off.
Okay, just the bottom part of it,
Mhm.
where it shows the
Yeah,
difference.
Yeah,
Because
where
it
it
won't
shows
stay
everybody's
down.
name, yeah.
Because in a
Yeah.
real meeting, it actually, I saw it the last time, but it disappeared fast.
Yeah.
Like as fast
It-
as it
it-
updated for you, Karen.
And there's an option in the system somewhere to turn on. I'm not,
What happened to the rest of my screen?
Scroll up,
Huh?
scroll up.
But we didn't all vote. It's a 3-1.
right, we didn't all vote yet.
Look, it won't.
I didn't
Something
vote yet,
goofy, do this too.
because he told me not to. He's
But
trying to show
it would
us
never
something.
happen that way, though.
No, he's trying to show us something.
Right. And part of it was, I had seen something flash here, and if we all vote real quick, that screen goes away.
I see.
So I wanted to see that. So that small part at the bottom of the screen will probably be there tomorrow night, because I don't really want to play with any options in the system since we've got 2 meetings tomorrow. So we will adjust that for the next meeting.
Okay.
Now, Karen, I just want to verify, do you know who has not voted at this point? All right. So this will be the process. If Karen sees that someone has not voted, and this is where the two of you need to decide how you want to handle this.
You need to move. We need to switch your seats.
Yeah.
You should be sitting right there.
You might want to do that just for tomorrow.
I'm saying that I think that we need to do that. Who normally sits there? Mr. Umbaugh, right?
No, that, Ms.
Ms. Cornegay.
Well,
Well,
might need to shift her to the
I
other
think
side
that
of.
you need to be sitting there for tomorrow, so I'll just make that request, that for tomorrow's board meeting, until we get things smooth.
Mhm.
Right.
Right.
I know
But
who.
you can
Jonna
see-
didn't vote.
Well, that's because I told you.
No, I saw it on the.
On the
screen.
one,
Yeah.
yeah.
on
Yeah,
that
it's still
one, too.
showing on the bottom screen, yeah. But anyway, but I think it's important for Karen to have eye contact with me so that I can see, you know, because I got to keep the meeting, you know, moving at a pace that she's.
Why don't they stay down?
That's right.
Scroll.
Yeah, my thought on that bottom section is it doesn't matter to me if you leave it, because the only time it's not going to change is if somebody hasn't voted. So we're going to know.
Right.
As soon as we all vote, it goes away.
Okay.
But can you fix it so that it doesn't do that?
Yes, yes.
Do what?
It's junk.
That drives me crazy.
Yes, we will take care of that. Again, not for tomorrow, but we will definitely take care of that. We will definitely.
This thing,
Okay.
you can't get it to stay.
And this is, so as you can tell, when you look at the screen,
It's gonna fix
you can tell that we were testing with board member 1 and 2. We didn't have 5 board members in our testing,
So see how it.
so it's showing.
You just
it's
can't
showing
see
here.
it. It keeps going back down.
Yeah. And we can definitely fix that. So Karen can identify who has not voted. Karen sees the tallies. You can see the tallies, and we can certainly leave them on there. It's not a problem because it's already there. We just fix the screen display.
Yeah.
So Karen will communicate who has not placed their vote. You go through whatever
I'm
your
going to
process.
go vote right now, and let's see if that goes away.
It should. As soon as you vote, then it's going to go to approved or
Gone.
okay. And as
See?
soon as you
It's
vote.
approved, and it's approved.
Yeah.
Right.
Good.
So in most cases, when you call for a vote, I'm assuming when you call for a vote, the vote normally happens pretty quick. So that little bottom part of the window is going to be there and gone lightning fast. Karen, let's go ahead to another discussion item. And what we want to do this time is, Ms. Gilhausen, if you could place a vote and decide that you didn't like what you voted. So we'll need a new item, a motion, a second.
And then withdraw her vote?
Um,
Withdraw her motion, I mean?
She's gonna vote. and
With-
then he
No,
won't tell
it's
her
my
how to
vote.
do
Wants
it.
to change her
Wants
vote.
to change her
your
vote.
Okay.
Make a motion, somebody.
Okay, ready, Ms.
Well,
Bush?
are we on the right item now?
We need to be on item 8.
Okay, and you will always be on whatever Here's where Karen has a certain degree of control. Whatever item Karen has flagged as the current item, each of you will see as the current item.
Okay.
Where you position the right-hand side of your screen is really irrelevant. It's what's in that box. Whatever's in that box, that's the current item. And
Right.
Karen literally has a checkbox that she clicks in and says, this is what is now current.
Okay.
Yep.
No?
Nope. Right. Now you can initiate voting.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, so go ahead and place your votes. So everyone go ahead and vote, and we'll approve this item.
I don't even know where they are. Let's say you lost me somewhere I went.
It shows as soon as the votes are done.
Someone didn't vote.
Carol Studdard hasn't voted
I
yet.
hadn't voted. I'm still playing with it.
Well, at least you're honest about it, Ms.
All
Sutter.
right.
I don't think she has a choice now.
Okay, I voted, y'all.
Okay, approved.
Okay, Ms. Gilhousen, let's say that you said whoops.
I clicked the wrong button and I meant to vote aye.
Okay. So, Karen, what do you do if we have a board member who said, I messed up on my vote?
Wow.
Come back in here. Right up there. Okay, so when we have to change a vote, because of the mechanics of voting, click on that button, Karen. Karen just clicked on a button that says cancel the voting. She's gone back to her screen,
Disappeared.
and it disappeared. And now click on the initiate voting, and you will reinitiate voting. And that is the cleanest process if we have to have a change of a vote. And we have actually seen districts where people have said change a vote. They do weird stuff on the back and they change the vote, and then really bad stuff happened down the road.
So at this point, everybody votes again.
Everybody votes again. So in the
So
event
you
that-
can change your mind.
Now, to vote, do we go to view?
If somebody messes it up, you get a do-over.
you can, this is the voting do-over. Okay. So if you clicked on the wrong button, or you go, hang on, I thought we were voting on something, all the different things that can happen,
Right.
we have that escape valve to get it out. The key is you need to let Karen know before we move on to that next item. So it can't be 3 items later go, oops, I messed up. It's because that opens up a whole new set of process. So if something happens, we need to know real quick.
Okay.
And since the nay button is the first one on the left, you can see that very easily happening.
Well, and notice we even color-coded them red and green,
Yeah.
trying to make it as easy
That's great.
as we possibly
yeah.
could. That was one of our other clients
I
that
still
said,
would have put the green on the left, so that from left to right, it would be yes,
Yes,
no.
no.
you know, what's interesting is different organizations like it in different ways.
Right.
We have one group that we're working with that have 12 boards. It's a municipal planning council, our metro planning council. They have 12 boards that they're going to be managing through Agenda Plus. Across the 12 boards, they can't decide which way they want it. And we're saying, no, you choose one way.
How hard is it to change it?
It's not that hard. But you don't want to have different in one organization.
So ladies, would you rather have the green, red, and would you rather have yes, no, or would you have the
I don't
no,
want to have
yes?
to make them do any work to
Okay.
change anything.
Just
I
asking.
think we can manage.
I think we can
just
manage
fine.
it.
If long term, if you decide it's a challenge, let me know.
If it proves to be where we keep hitting the no button and we don't mean to, maybe we'll
Yeah.
revisit
Part
it.
of the reason for the selection of this program is I'm a very big believer in HTML5, which is the most
Right.
standard coding
Right.
for today's world, and it's done.
You can change it in.
We
an
could have it
instant.
changed. If we called Dharma right now and Dharma answered the phone, we could say, hey, change this. It would be done before your next item.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not an issue anymore.
Okay.
Right.
And we've had a good time with the guys. Every time I come out here, they know when I'm here, and they cringe. It's like, okay, what time are your meetings out there today? And they will plan lunch around when I'm here, so they're back in the office when I leave here because they know they're getting an email of stuff.
I think we're good.
Yeah, we're not gonna change it tonight. All right, so we've canceled the vote. Karen, what else did we have on our voting screen? Okay. Now, one thing that's really important on your agenda right now, and this is the same as you had before, just automated. You'll notice on the discussion agenda, the items are numbered D1, D2, D3, D4. The consent items were C1, C2, C3. If an item is flagged, and I believe we have a C item
C
down.
item got moved,
Okay.
right.
That C item got flagged. Again, the process is exactly the same as what you had before. The difference is it is now totally automated. And Karen used to spend half an hour to 45 minutes when she finalized the agenda to manually put on all those C and D numbers. That was a manual process.
Wow.
Now it happens with a click of a button. Okay? So the amount of time that's been saved is significant. Karen's
You're
very
not
happy.
going to know what to do with all this extra time.
All right, so those items can move back and forth. What else did we, so we were doing another vote? And what do we need to do with this one? I don't remember what we were doing. Okay, so we need, just put in whoever's name. They know their part. We're just getting our part down pat.
So item C6.
Yes, we are on item C6. So again, we've got a consent item. Now, keep in mind that as you're going through your process, you've got the attachments right there, you've got that view screen. I want you to very quickly call up the view screen so you can see the details of the item. Now I want you to call up the attachments real quick.
Yep.
Now, based on what you just saw in the attachments, now you've got a question about something in the item, or in the item detail, so call up the item detail again. I just want you to get really comfortable with where those buttons are that you need to be clicking going back and forth. Because again, tomorrow, you're going to be doing things a whole lot faster than we're doing them here today.
And when
And I
you
just-
say item detail, you're
That's the
talking-
eyeball. The eyeball
oh,
or the
eyeball,
view.
Yeah, okay.
So when we're in meeting, we have two places we can get there. We can get there through the eyeball beside the item,
Okay.
or view in item description.
But the view in item description, where is it? Oh, right up
Right
here.
over the-
Okay, I
right.
kept looking at this one and I'm going, that's not telling me. Okay,
Right,
I
so
got
you have
yeah.
two places. Now, here's what you need to be really careful of. Close out of the item view
Mhm.
and expand all on the agenda.
What did you push to do that?
Scroll up to the top and click on expand all.
Yep.
Now notice right now
all these little
C6 is our current item, which is near the bottom of the agenda. But you could go up to C1 and do the view details on C1.
Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
This is the one place that you could get yourself kind of messed up and confused.
Right.
Earlier I said I would focus all of your energy on that little box on the right-hand side and not worry about what's going on the agenda. You always have that ability to go back and look at past items on this agenda or future items, but this is the risk you run, that you're looking at item detail for the item that is not, or for an item that is not the current item.
Right.
Okay, so that's the risk.
So the best way to view the detail for the current item is to click the view button that's in the boxes on the right.
Yes.
Up at the top, and that way you'll always know you're viewing the detail of the right item.
Exactly. That way you're always looking at the current item's detail and the current item's attachment. It's just, it's the safest way. And the last thing we want is to have you get confused while you're sitting in the middle of the mayhem of a board meeting. Okay?
Great.
Yep.
Now,
Okay.
that- any questions?
No.
All right.
Have we covered about everything?
We are getting close.
Because I'm supposed to be at a meeting in 8 minutes.
We're getting close. We just want to make sure we've got everything covered. We've got, adding new items. This is important because occasionally you do need to add new items during the meeting, correct? All right, Karen, let's add, what would a new, Ms. Gelhausen, what would a new
I'm
item?
not sure
We don't do that.
Oh, we don't?
No.
Never.
School board won't do that.
Yeah.
In this
We have to
particular
follow
instance, the board will not.
Okay, so we don't ever
No.
add. Okay.
No. Oh.
They're few and far between, yeah.
Okay.
Well, do we want to go through it?
If
real
it ever
quick?
well, we need to, because if it ever happens, you would not have a clue what was going on.
Okay.
Okay, Karen.
Let's pretend
add-
we have an
long
Janice,
as
put an
Karen gets it
emergency
on the
item
screen.
on.
Oh, you don't want one of mine.
As long as Karen can get it on the screen, we can vote.
Okay, I
pressure's
want to entertain. Well, how do we do that? How do we?
Let's say an emergency action for a hurricane.
Yeah,
Okay, there we go. Let's hope we don't have one of those.
we have an
this year.
emergency action for a hurricane.
That would be
All right.
positive for our board.
Well, first you would have to have a motion to,
Sorry, Janice, you were the one
that this is an emergency item.
she just said
And
you're
and
worse
then
than
you
a
have to have a
hurricane.
motion on the item itself.
So you have to have a motion to add the item?
You have to have a motion to declare it an emergency item.
Okay, so
And
we
you have to have a motion on the item itself.
So Karen is creating, now, this is the one place where you may need to scroll to the top of the screen while you are in session. You'll notice that in the top right-hand corner of the screen, right underneath where your username is, there is a refresh button. This is, when we're in session, this is a refresh button we put on here specifically for during the meeting session. In the event that anything goes weird, and I say weird because I have no idea what that might be. If something goes hairy on the screen, if we have to add an item, we know we're going to have to do this. In certain situations, conceivably, if something went sideways with a motion, we may have to refresh the screen. Here's sort of the across-the-board rule. If one of you says, I don't see that on my screen, everyone refreshes the screen. Not just one person, everybody refreshes, because that should resync everything to what Karen sees.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
Oh.
sorry, Karen. See, apparently the controls in the system are working quite nicely.
And the refresh, I'll bring you
Well,
better.
I think I must have already voted because it didn't come up vote.
You might have.
The green button, that will refresh it.
Did I already vote, Karen?
Yep. Everybody's voted.
Yep,
I
you can
just
just close
did.
out of that.
Did it not go through?
I think everybody did. It says approved.
Yeah.
Okay. So we need to add an emergency item for the upcoming hurricane.
I moved that this item be declared an
Declared
emergency
emergency.
item. Hurricane Janice is coming through.
I'd like to declare an emergency that we're being, Hurricane
second?
Janice is approaching.
And I'll second.
We have a second.
Okay, I have a motion for approval by Ms. Studdard and a second by Ms. Condon.
I think you
Ms.
have-
Bush, could you please add the emergency item on the agenda regarding Hurricane Janice?
You look like you're having a lot of fun adding that particular.
I hope we laugh this much tomorrow.
I just hope.
We'll have to see how the weather is.
You'd see open jaws out there, but you'd be like, they're actually having a good time.
I'm going to say tomorrow night, I declare an
Okay, so
emergency
we've got
item.
motion to add, for Hurricane, did you put Hurricane Janice on there?
Okay.
Night, at the beginning of the meeting.
We'll have a little levity to start with.
Okay, now, hang on. You've added the item, correct? Do you see the item that
I
was
do.
just added?
Yep.
Supposed to refresh.
Okay. Now, the item, Karen, did you make the item active instantly?
Yep, it says
Okay.
vote.
Scroll down to the bottom of the screen and see if it's at the bottom of your screen in the agenda part.
Well, I already got it.
No.
I don't
Okay.
see it.
It's only-
It's underneath D1.
It's underneath D1.
See if
Yep,
there's
under
a-
school board member.
Underneath
Yep.
D1.
It is
Where?
showing up.
Oh,
Right
have it.
there.
You got to do what?
Okay.
Oh, I hit refresh.
Perfect.
You have to refresh.
I
Okay.
didn't refresh.
Hold on a second, because
Okay.
I did refresh. I can see it, but I don't
Well,
see it on here.
this part of your screen refreshes automatically.
Okay.
This part doesn't, and that's
Okay, now
where,
vote.
so
I need
some
to-
of you are seeing it and some of you are not, and it's just based on when you refreshed and what you were doing at the time. So as soon as you refresh, if you scroll down, it should be right
Done.
there.
There it is.
Okay, perfect.
Got
So
it.
does everyone see Hurricane Janice on there now?
I have it on the right, but not the left, but that's fine. I'm
Okay.
good.
If
It's a
you don't
refresh
have it
button.
on the left,
Now I have it.
okay, and that's just the refresh. You just need that refresh to come through. So again, if you are not seeing the same things,
Some people hadn't voted.
this is just where,
I didn't vote.
if all else fails, refresh. You got a question,
Dennis and
Denise?
Betsy. Let's see.
Hard code, if you have a problem, your very
Trying
first
to edit.
action should be
Ooh.
find F5 and hit it. That just needs to be hard coded. If I have a problem in HTML5,
Right,
and this is not
right.
just Agenda Plus, this is in general web application.
It refreshes everything,
Your
right?
very first thing should be to reach and hit F5.
Hey guys, just FYI, if you click,
That's
if
just
you're,
a view.
say you're trying to click on I, and you don't click directly on the bubble, you click below it a little
So
to
you
the
would
left,
have
it'll
to
take you
edit.
to nay, so it'd be
You have
really
to edit
easy
it
to
over there.
mess up your vote.
Let me see.
Huh.
See if I have it on I, and I click there.
I will ask Dharma to separate those,
Okay.
to space them more.
Yeah, space
Right.
them
Put a
out.
big fill
Right.
in there.
Okay.
This screen is
So
as
this
close
Mr.
to theirs
and I
as
would
it can
like you
be,
not to
just
show
with
our
your
votes up
extra
there.
administrative
I will
options.
not, but in future, I want to.
Bubble and it's just the A or nay.
don't think that'll be a problem for me.
That would
What's that?
probably be easier, is take off the bubble and just
radio
click
button
on the word.
selection And just put a hot link.
If you go to the vote,
Oh, I like the buttons.
Oh, you do?
I
like the
do. I like
bubble?
the red, the green, and
No,
the
no, 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 no.
orange.
We're saying click on the red or the green.
Oh, yeah,
and not
Just
the little
have
bubble.
it a button click instead of
Yeah.
the little bubble.
Yeah.
But Ms. Gilhousen is correct, Mark. We do need to add buffer space between those because if you go to click I and you're not on the button.
If we do a
just
button,
below it,
yeah, if we go buttons, we would have to have
Good
spacing.
catch.
Well, even the way it is now, they run the risk of not paying attention. If they click the radio buttons and just miss it, it will take an I vote and make it nay, and
yeah,
that's a problem.
if you click just a hair to the left, it's
It should
gonna-
only be if you're clicking, maybe not. We'll,
It's the spacers, that's all
Okay.
it is. It's not a big
Yeah.
deal.
take a look. All right, yes.
And this is about motions. I mean, it's quick and easy for me to just say motion to approve. But if we ever wanted a lot of detail in the motion, if I just put motion to approve, do I have the ability to go back later and put, after they voted?
Fill in what it's
Because
about.
otherwise, we've got to get the motion right while we're in the meeting.
Sometimes we have to change the motion or we have to amend a motion, and that's what she does. Did you type that right
I
in?
just tried to go back because I was going to edit the motion to say Hurricane Janice.
Right.
And because I had already initiated the voting and y'all were already voting,
You couldn't do
I
it.
couldn't change
So it's been
it.
Right.
approved now. so
But go in and edit it now. So there's a couple of different things here. There's just updating the title of the motion to make sure it's exactly what you wanted. And that is a process discussion that we need to have. How do we make sure? Because if you have a longer motion than just motion to approve,
It would probably help Karen if we stated the motion out and
Yeah.
then just say motion to approve. If we
yeah,
said-
that would make it a
uh,
whole lot easier.
Yeah, I mean, that would give her some time to be doing her thing.
Right.
Now, from,
I can put in ahead of time what the routine would be. If
And then-
it's anything out of the ordinary,
Right.
you will have to give me time to go in
Right.
and edit.
Right.
That would
What
make
I
sense.
have, what I have pre-put in.
Right.
That's going to
Like,
become,
If I
think,
was going to say, I'll approve the personnel consent agenda with the deletion of X, Y, and Z, then
Right.
you actually have to change that whole motion.
right.
and I would think that would become more of an issue in discipline hearings because we change motions more there than we do during regular meetings, typically.
But
We don't vote in the agenda.
Oh, are we not going to use it?
Not for,
Now we're not, but we talked about that.
Okay.
For disciplinary, right.
yeah.
Because I didn't know because of the confidential,
Yeah.
you had that.
It's there, it's ready, but it needs to be.
So we just need to really focus on
Okay,
taking
yeah.
it slow tomorrow night.
Absolutely.
Give
The only
Karen
reason I
time.
brought up-
Tomorrow night?
The only reason I
I
brought
think-
up
Invited.
I think Karen, I'm going to be here tomorrow afternoon too, apparently.
The only reason that I brought up the discipline ones is that's where you have had the most questions of who has made the motions and how we voted. And I know on record there's one of mine that's wrong.
Now,
So-
so here's a question for the board, and I do not know what the answer is. If a motion has a longer description, is it, and I don't know, I might be opening up a can of worms, but you've got the recording, you can always go back to the recording to confirm the exact wording. The problem is, if it's not there, are you sure you're voting on the motion you think you're voting on? And that's
Right.
always the issue.
I think we're very specific about that because sometimes even the attorney will stop us and say,
Okay.
Yeah,
you know,
need
and
to
correct us on it.
report, yeah.
And
Okay.
usually, I don't know if Karen, if you're writing it or if the attorney's writing it, but I think, I mean, I'm not over there, so I don't know, but I know we've been questioned on restate your motion to make
Okay.
sure that they've gotten it.
And that,
correct.
see, and that-
And we're
from
aware
a,
of that.
From a record perspective, because you can see the actual motion as it's written on your screen,
Mm-hmm.
and certainly from a public record perspective, that's the preferred way, so that you know exactly what you're voting on. So down the road, no one can come back and say, I didn't know what I was voting on. It's like, okay, it was there on the screen, and you clicked the green button or the red button.
And I don't think, Karen, you've ever gotten it wrong. I mean, I don't think the motions have ever been not stated as we've stated it.
Helpful when the chairman restates it.
Right.
Mhm.
But sometimes I'm still working on the motion, so I
Right.
just
Okay.
what you're saying.
Right.
And again, like I said, for the most part, Karen's going to create the motions beforehand with generic wording.
Carol?
I don't think so.
Am I going to
think-
miss something big if I leave now?
I don't think, I think we're in pretty good shape. We'll
Okay,
just deal
thank you
with
so
extra-
much. You
we'll
made
just-
it very easy. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I think we'll just deal with last questions.
I was just going to ask how much longer is it?
What other questions do you have? Let me ask a different question. what other situations have you had come up in board meetings that we have not talked about yet? Because that's what worries me more than anything else is, what have we not accounted for yet?
Okay, here's one that I think that we have had in the past, and I'm not sure how we've handled it in the agenda piece of it, but when we have a motion on the table, and we're having discussion, and then through that motion, there's a sub-motion that's created.
Okay.
Right? So we have a motion and then we have a sub-motion, right? And before we can get back to the main motion, we have to take action on the sub-motion. So how
Okay.
is that going to work?
Well, we're going to test two things at one time now. So we have
Okay.
just had a board member who had to leave. So what do we do, Karen?
Can I add a third thing to that?
Only two at a time.
For the record, we have to show that Mrs. Studdard left
Right,
at the
yeah, I was
time,
just
so
getting
that
ready
all
to
has
say
to be
that.
in the minutes
Right.
too.
Right,
Right.
exactly. So that's,
I'm going to go up to the attendance and mark her absent so that if we take any other motions,
It shows.
it's out of there.
right.
Okay.
So in Agenda Plus, what happens is any vote up to this point, Ms. Studdard would be included in that vote, and she shows as a voting member and what her vote is. From this point forward, she is now absent, and now it's a vote of 4. So a majority would be 3.
Right.
Well, it would still be a majority of 3, but
Right.
Just on my side of the world, when you mark Carol absent, is that an auto abstain? How is that?
no, she is no longer present. So we're now there's now 4 people voting.
It actually puts a non-present marker,
Yes.
it flags it, and then moves forward.
And we'll do that because we're going to flag her as absent now. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do a motion to amend.
We're going to put a motion on the table, and then we're going to have discussion. So
Yes.
there'll be an active motion, and then through that discussion, it leads to another motion.
What- what she
Let's
said.
pick an item that has an attachment
Okay,
so that we can pretend we're drafting a policy
okay,
and we want to amend part of that attachment.
okay.
And you know how we vote on that before we
Right.
vote on the whole attachment? I think
Right.
that would kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
Okay.
Okay. So Karen, do you know what they're talking about?
Well, I'm trying to find a motion here or an item in here that we haven't voted on.
Well, worst case, you
Yeah,
create a new
okay,
one.
I've got one now.
Okay. So item D4, Karen's going to create a new action. So the situation is you would create there would be a motion, you would have discussion, then there would be a subsequent motion. You have to vote on the second motion.
First, and then go back to the main motion.
We could do this without an attachment. We can have discussion, and I could call the question. And you have to have a second and a vote on calling the question, correct?
Yes.
So we wouldn't have to have an attachment. So that would show, Ashley voted to approve, Betsy second, now we have discussion, and it's going on, and I say, Madam Chair, I call the question.
And then we have to take a vote on
Someone
that.
has to second that. Before we can go further, we have to vote, do we want to call a question?
Okay.
So how would we show all of that in here?
It's magic.
Okay.
We can stack motions. Karen's going to experience stacking motions right now. She's got that look on her face.
All right, I'm putting my initial motion in.
Yep, and
Motion to approve.
let's make it easy. Call it the initial motion.
Well, it would always be motion to approve, and then
For
discussion.
tracking
She's
purposes?
just,
For her purposes, because I want Karen to be able to see exactly how these stack and what it looks like. So call that first one the initial motion.
And we got a motion and a second.
Mhm. Okay, so we have the first motion is now there.
initial motion to approve, okay. So we're having discussion, and now Ashley wants to amend the motion? Or no, Janice calls the question. So now we have to have a second motion to call the question, right? Janice?
I'm sorry.
Hold on just 1 second.
Here we go. Okay.
So you're calling, so we've got a motion up here, the initial motion to approve, and you want to call the question.
And then let's say I call the question, and Betsy seconds it.
Okay, so we have a motion to call the question.
I'm glad I don't have Karen's job.
Yeah.
Aren't we all?
Look at all the time she's going to have on her hands now.
Yeah, unfortunately, that doesn't help during the board meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, I see the second.
Motion to call the question.
Oh, yeah, so there it is, motion to call the
So
question.
where would the button be to vote on that call
Okay.
question?
So you have to initiate the vote.
right?
We
So
have
Karen
a-
will initiate the vote
We
on
have
the
a
second
motion and
one.
a second on both of those now.
Right, so she has to initiate the vote on the first one. I mean,
On
it's actually the
one,
second
On the call the
one.
question.
We have to do that one first.
Right.
This is nice. It helps you keep track of,
Yep.
because I know we've gotten lost. in
Okay,
what's
so
going on.
motion to call the question, vote now. So, vote.
Do you want me to show you what I was talking about with the bubbles? So you have got, I clicked, if I click just right there, it moves it to me.
Oh, it does. Okay,
Yeah.
so they've already got it set up as a button, just the white space isn't really white space.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
He'll know.
Did everybody
yeah.
vote?
Yeah.
Okay, so the motion to call the question has been approved, so we're going to end discussion at this point, and we're going to bring it, the initial motion back to the board for a vote. So now,
Skillhouse, did you vote?
I did.
yep, it's approved.
Why is mine still showing that she didn't vote?
I took a
Close?
second. You might need to refresh.
F5.
Hang on, go into
Painted
the,
green.
not there, go into the other one. There you go.
Also helpful.
Okay, and look at the votes for that one.
So Jeremy, how many did you go through before you found
Yeah.
a
I
program
think it
like
was just,
this?
it's just a momentary
Actually,
delay.
only 4.
Really?
There's very limited numbers that you can get. Board docs is actually, so Mark, I'm going to talk about your competition to answer your
Ah.
question for a moment.
See, I'm familiar with board docs.
Is the large one, and so here's why. If, once you get to know about me, I'm very, very cost conscientious. And I don't care about year 1, I care a lot about year 3. I want to know what my ROI in year 3 is. Board docs was cheaper than Agile year 1. It was cheaper than Agile in year 2, but at year 2, month 4, it became a zero cost. At the end of year 2 and starting year 3, we save $4,500 starting that point. Every year after that, it's $9,500 that's returned.
Okay, so we're back to the initial motion, so we need a vote on the initial motion.
What did the county commission use?
Okay, let's vote.
Oh, I see what you're saying. That's bad.
Mine
Where it can
doesn't
make
light
it-
up.
Where it can make it an A.
Right.
Yeah, if
But
you don't- if
can
you
just
click in
on the
between.
box, so I see
Yeah,
that.
if
You don't
you-
have to use the bubble.
Yeah, just don't
Yeah,
click the bubble.
so definitely
Bubble
click on the
line, yeah.
bubbles, and we'll get that adjusted.
Right.
Don't click on the bubbles,
it's
just click on the
click on the
buttons.
button.
Better to click on
Yeah.
the color.
Oh, okay, click
Yeah.
on the buttons?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just fill
Okay.
the radius
Okay.
altogether.
yeah.
And put a spacer in them.
Yep.
Yep, we can do that.
Very good.
All right, so we've got the initial motion is now voting, it's been approved. Okay, so now we have those motions stacked. So when Karen produces the minutes from, or for this meeting, those motions will now show stacked in that same way on the minutes for the meeting. So it's,
I have a question.
yep,
So like I was saying before, if we have an attachment that's a policy that we're working on, can Karen or somebody, like as we're drafting the new language for the policy, can it be changed during the meeting so we can see what we're voting on before we vote on it?
I don't, because it's an
Because-
attachment, I don't think she can edit.
Well, because right now
Well-
right now the attachments are showing as a PDF. So
Right.
unless they're showing as not a PDF,
it would be really tough.
Okay.
So how do you, when you're drafting policy like that, how do you do it right now? Like, is someone,
Well, we would have an initial policy, but say I
Right.
wanted to change 3 words in there
Mhm.
to something different. So we'd strike that and then write whatever the new phrase is that we wanted. But
Typically, she would have the document on another screen or whatever, it's a Word document or whatever, and she would just be making the corrections there. It wouldn't be live in
Right.
the agenda.
I was just
Right.
wondering if we had that capability.
Yeah,
that's all.
yeah.
that's something that could be built down the road. But what it would do, though, is it would slow down the process, because what Karen would have to do is edit the document on another screen, save the document out to a PDF, then attach it or reattach it to
right.
the agenda. So it would be a multi-step process. So if it was a critical step in the process and that was really important, we could certainly build that. It's not something,
Yeah, I gotcha.
we'd have to build an interface that made it faster than it would be by
Right.
default.
And just one other food for thought is the reason why we use PDFs as attachments is because you don't want somebody to be able to open an attachment and edit it. A
Right.
PDF is non-editable, so that's the reason why we use PDFs.
Right.
And it's the most universal
Correct. It's
Right.
the most universal, yeah.
open on.
Right.
Well, especially when you can access all of this on your cell phone and your iPad and
Right.
whatever else, The PDFs, you can always read the PDF. It's always going to work. Any other situations that come up in board meetings that we haven't addressed?
I think you've
I don't
covered
think
them
so.
all.
I think so too.
Let's talk about the system crashing. Everyone, it was actually my introduction to Carol for the first time, but does everyone remember the impasse hearing? Probably remember.
Jeremy, you need to make sure you're getting picked up on the
So
recording.
on the impasse hearing, remember, this was in the middle. We were already working on moving towards Agile because the database on eAgenda was crashing, literally right up to board meeting times. We even had it crash during a board meeting one time. We just got it back up for you guys realized it.
We had no idea. Good job.
I'm glad because it could have been bad. But the reason, let's talk to catastrophic computer failure, system failure. We have a fire at Fleming Island. We carry on with the board meeting here. Technically, you can run board meetings from your cell phones now. There is no technical reason you cannot run this. Granted,
Right.
it's small. What I would do is I would bring tablets in for you.
Yeah.
But the point is, we've also removed the single point of failure from the system as well.
So,
That's awesome.
so in that vein, when we
Yes.
have had a few workshops or
I don't know.
special meetings where we had to have at
To the left,
the
just
Professional
the
Development
left,
Center in Green
the other
Cove,
left.
we could, because at that time, we had to use a paper agenda or something, remember that? Where
No,
now
you're
we
right.
could still
Just a
vote
touch.
electronically.
I would personally like to see this go away.
Yes, I agree.
We never had these. We always
And
had a
these too.
laptop, which was nice because you could see everyone. Now, I mean,
We're short.
I'm up as high as I can possibly go.
all three of
And
us
if
are.
I sit back, you don't
I
even know I'm
think don't
here.
touch.
I would like to see you move to larger format Chromebooks.
Right.
So I'm a very big branding person.
Right.
That is a consistent brand. Board,
Right.
superintendent.
Okay, make it happen.
I can do that.
Make it happen. Although there are times I might want to hide behind this.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
The only time the only thing that I want to be sure of is the back of this made of Kevlar. Is it bulletproof?
What we can also do is we can go to the board members' screens, and we can make sure you have screens with HDMI inputs, and you can take your Chromebook and plug it into a larger format screen if the screens aren't big enough. But as I was showing you, Control Plus, Control Minus, you can control the size of your screen. Even though it's a smaller screen, you can make the printing larger. So
Right.
When you
I
get
would like
bigger
to.
glasses.
Right.
The whole idea is mobility,
Yeah.
uniform. I would like to see, when I was in Union, actually the first people I introduced the Chromebooks were, we redid the boardroom,
Right.
and the board was the first people to have it. In this case, it was already in motion when I got here, but I'd like to see you move away from very aged, dying technology. It just, the wiring, I hate, we run wires across here, it bothers me.
Right.
So I'd like to move to a very uniform platform for administration, teachers, students, all the same platform. It just makes us, you're not better than a student. And that's a very good message to send. My department, we don't have different access than the students have. We move to the same devices.
Right. Well, doesn't matter to me as
I
long
think
as
we're
it's
all
a screen.
finished.
I don't care what kind.
I think we're all done.
Yep, I think so.
Mr. Vickers, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
This was
Thank
And
you very
I-
much.
And I will be here
Helpful.
tomorrow in the afternoon and in the evening. Jeremy, you're here as well, or Wayne, or?
I have not missed a meeting yet. My permanent seat is in that very back corner, as close to the door as I can possibly.
Not if I get here before you. That's my seat. I already claimed it back there.
You guys aren't going to hide in the
No
booth?
hiding in the back.
You
Really.
can hide in the booth.
Yeah, look at Karen. She's telling me exactly where I'm sitting, right there.
But tomorrow I will
Okay.
be very much front and forward.
That would be
right
good,
there
yeah.
on the corner, so I
Okay.
can help with-
Yeah, I think we'll just reserve those 2 seats for you guys right there on the front, if that's okay.
If Mark's going to be over there,
Okay.
I will probably step over to this side.
Okay,
So that way I can get to this side of the board and the assistant.
great, okay.
He can handle that side.
Okay. I will also just make mention to Mr. Van Zant that we're requesting a switch of chairs tomorrow for tomorrow's meeting. And if we feel we need to do that for a couple of meetings, we'll do that. And then until we get comfortable and everything seems to flow smoothly. Okay? So with that, thank you very much. It's been very helpful. And thank you, ladies. I will call this meeting to a close.